Welcome to Croft TV. This is the Brownlow special, and I have the Brownlow King right here, Sean Brady, who over the last 12 years can tell you what is going to happen on Brownlow Medal Night without actually turning up and talking to the umpires. So, Sean, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, Croft.
Can you give us a little bit of a history about yourself and why you're so much in love with the Brownlow Medal and why you're very lucky at doing what you do?
Yes, well basically the thing I like about the Brownlow is it's the only event in the world you can bet on once it's been resulted. So compared to other forms of having a bit of a flutter like horse racing or sport or something like that, the Brownlow, of course, the votes are in the box and it's my guess versus the bookmaker.
We're going to start with Adelaide. We're going to go alphabetical order, even though I might stuff it up. We're going to start with Adelaide. Who do you think might win?
Yeah, well, Paddy Dangerfield, I think, has pretty clearly got Adelaide's votes wrapped up. He's coming off 23 votes last year in his breakout Brownlow year, and I can't see anyone getting close to him in Adelaide.
Brisbane
Lions, there's two chances in my opinion. Tommy Rockcliffe, who had the most votes at Brisbane last year. He's had a heap of the football. Pierce Hanley, the only man who could knock him over, but I think Rockcliffe's pretty safe, but keep a good eye on Pierce Hanley as well.
Right, okay, a bit of a roughie there. What about the Bulldogs?
Bulldogs, Ryan Griffin, a bit like Paddy Dangerfield at Adelaide. I expect him just to run away with it at the Dogs pretty comfortably.
The Blues, the mighty Carlton Football Club.
Yes, well, we've got Chris Judd down there, who he's one of a few guys who can poll votes when he's not even playing. The umpires, of course, really go for Juddy. However, it's very tight down there this year. I think Brock McLean could get over the top of Mark Murphy and Chris Judd. So there's a bit of one for the viewers watching the show that I feel Brock McLean could be the man down there with a bit of value.
Well, there you go, a bit of value. What about the mighty Pies? This is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, this is throw a blanket over the two boys down there. Obviously, Dane Beams didn't have much football this year with his injury, unfortunately. He polled 19 votes last year, so the votes, of course, have to go somewhere. Dane Swan, Scott Pendlebury, it's almost throw a blanket over the two of them. I do sense a little swing off Dane Swan this year. He's coming off his 34 votes when he won it 2 years ago, 25 votes last year. I just feel they might be off him a touch and over to Scotty Pendlebury. So if I was sticking my neck out, I think Pendles could win the Collingwood votes over Swanee.
Oh, there you have it. Hey, get on Scotty Pendlebury. What about Essendon? What about the Bombers?
Yeah, well, I think Joe Watson's well over the line down there. Obviously, there was a fair bit of media attention at Essendon this year, and it's a little hard to read because it's unprecedented. But I think you'll find Joe Watson wins it comfortably. Some of the agencies are offering markets without Joe Watson, and I think Dyson Heppel would be the man that I think can poll over the top of Brendan Goddard and Zaharakis. But I think Joby will win it. But I think Dyson Heppel's the man if you can look for some value there.
Right, there you go. And what about Freo? What a wonderful year.
Freo, way to go. Unfortunately for Nathan Fyfe, he's ineligible for the Brownlow this year after being suspended. I think you'll find he will be a runaway winner at Freo. Barlow's coming off only one vote last year, and of course polling history, as I said, is paramount to all of this. Fyfe had a great year, and I actually think he could poll into the 20s this year. Right. However, as I said, he is ineligible to win the medal, but I think you'll find he'll win Freo's votes.
What about the Gold Coast Suns? This is going to be a tough one.
Well, yes, you don't have to be following football even to know that Gary Ablett will take it out at the Gold Coast, but a little similar to Essendon. They are offering markets without Gary involved, and I think Harley Bennell is the man that can win that over Prestia and O'Meara.
Right, and Geelong next, Joel Selwood, surely.
Yeah, well, yes, Joel Selwood surely, and obviously he's a leading fancy to take out the medal this year in all the markets. However, I think Stevie Johnson will poll very big down at Geelong, and I've got Stevie J polling as high as about 18. So I certainly wouldn't want to be, jumping onto Selwood at the extremely short odds. I think he's as low as about $1.05. So right. I'd steer right off Geelong. I think Joel will win it, but I wouldn't fall off my chair on Brownlow night if Stevie J came over the top of Joel at Geelong.
Oh, there you go. A bit of a surprise. GWS, you'd have to be thinking Callan Ward, Jeremy Cameron.
Absolutely. So interesting club, and you've got to be cautious with clubs where there's not many wins on the board, so there won't be many votes. You could win GWS arguably with 3 votes or 4 votes. I think Jeremy Cameron is the man to be on. However, there are a lot of games where they did lose. However, he kicked goals. A lot of people might remember the game against Collingwood under lights at the MCG. He kicked 7 goals too. It was a real breakout game, in my opinion, for Jeremy Cameron. Swanee had a heap of the footy that night, but I think you'll find Jeremy polls a couple of votes in that game, and there's a few games like that, the Essendon game as well. So I think he'll get to sort of 6, 7, 8 votes, and I can't see anyone getting above 3 at GWS outside of him. I think Callum Ward, there's one vest on ground in a win, and that's about it.
Right. What about the Mighty Hawks, my mob?
The Mighty Hawks, yes, your mob, and 99 was a great year when Shane won the Brownlow, of course.
Yes. Did you tip me then? Yes, he did.
I did tip Shane. He did start favourite, but he was the real Brownlow
Went out on a limb.
Yeah, I went right out on a limb. Shane was short, but...
a lot of people are talking about Ruffy, that he can take a lot of votes off Mitchell. Do you think that's the case?
No, I don't. And again, we're talking about the Brownlow here. So I, like everyone, know Ruffy had a sensational year and he is a great footballer. But in Brownlow terms, Ruffy polled 7 votes only the year that he kicked 75 goals. He's coming off only 2 or 3 votes the last couple of years. So I think Ruffy polls, he's 10, 12, might even get to 14, but there's no chance he'll get near Sam Mitchell, in my opinion. Hodgie's the other one at Hawthorn who, polls quite well, and obviously, again, he's a great player. But in Hawthorn, when you look at it, Cyril Rioli missed a lot of footy this year. Ruffy had a great year, but I don't think he'll poll too high. But he, didn't have a huge amount of influence Brownlow-wise on a lot of games. So I think Mitchell's a runaway down at Hawthorn.
And what about the D's? Have we got a Brownlow winner coming from the Melbourne Football Club?
No, unfortunately, it won't be the Shane Woden repeat, I suppose. And he was a surprise that year. I can't see it happening this year without the wins on the board. Again, I'd steer right off Melbourne. I think 3 votes wins it at Melbourne. I know Nathan Jones is extremely short in the betting, but Jack Watts could win that. He had 1 big game. Grimes, he had a big game. Nathan Jones can poll his 3 or 4, but I'd steer right off it. If I stuck my neck out, I'd almost say Nathan Jones is certainly no good thing to win Melbourne.
Right.
And you'd possibly look at the Watts or Grimes types.
Okay, what about North Melbourne?
Yeah, North Melbourne's interesting. My spreadsheets all have Boomer Harvey winning by about 4 or 5 votes. However, the interesting thing is last year I had Boomer on 14 votes and he only polled 4.
Right.
And I really can't put my finger on why. He was just totally missed in a few really big
Maybe
games.
he's yapping to the umpires and they don't like it.
Well, you'd know better than me.
Yeah.
Obviously,
you got to bite your lip.
Yeah, and he does seem that sort of guy. And a bit Brendan Goddard's, used to do a bit of that when he was at St Kilda. So maybe there's a bit of that influence in the umpires. So again, I'd be extremely, cautious on tipping Brent Harvey or putting any of my hard-earned on him. I feel that Drew Petrie came off 9 votes last year. I think he's tremendous value down at North, and Daniel Wells, the other one in the mix. So, yes, Boomer, my stats say he should win it, but I'd tread very warily, and if I was looking for value, I'd jump onto Drew Petrie.
Right, what about Port Adelaide? What a wonderful year.
Yeah, fantastic year, and obviously it was great how well they performed in the finals. I think that was really good for football. Travis Boak, the captain down there, in my opinion, he potentially is a future Brownlow medal winner. The way he plays his football, he does kick goals, he's hard, he just seems a likeable sort of guy to me that I think the umpires warm to. He took out Port's votes last year, and so he's not missed by the umpires. I think you'll find he gets into the very high teens, Travis Boak, and clearly should win Port over Hamish Hartlett and Brad Ebert.
Now, we're going to talk about the Tigers, and I just want to say, last year Sean said that Joe Watson, Trent Cotchin, Will Quinella the Brownlow medal, and guess what? He got it right. So what about Trent Cotchin this year?
Yeah, so Trent in Brownlow terms, pre-season, I thought Trent was one of the guys to beat after polling so well last year with 26 votes. However, he didn't have a super Brownlow year, and once again, not talking about how well he played or how well he captained the Richmond Football Club, but in Brownlow terms, I have Trent getting to about 15, 16 votes. Dusty Martin and Brett Delidio, I have them both around 13, so it's pretty tight at Richmond. However, I would expect Trent to take it out, and he might jag a couple of votes here and there that, that may not be recognised by anyone in the media in terms of how he played, but I think Trent should win Richmond's.
What about the Sydney Swans?
Sydney Swans is awfully tight, actually, and as a lot of people know, they're a great football side, Sydney. They are a very even side, and in the midfield they boast a huge amount of guys who are really good footballers, and they're attention grabbers that you can't miss them. I think it's down to 2, Kieran Jack and Dan Hanbury. Jack's pretty short as favourite, and I do feel the way Dan Hanbury played, and he's coming off a Norm Smith medal. He polled 12 votes last year versus Kieran Jack's 15. But I think, sticking the neck out here, Dan Hanbury might knock over Kieran Jack. But in saying that, I certainly wouldn't be surprised if Kieran took it out. A little bit like Collingwood, where it's a close one down there.
And what about the Saints? Surely Montagna wins the Brownlow betting.
No, well, funnily enough, a little bit like a Boomer Harvey, Brendan Goddard type. The umpires seem to miss him, and again, not knocking the way he plays football. He gets a heap of the footy, and he's a great footballer. However, he gets missed a bit, and he is odds on down at St Kilda, and I feel the way Jack Stevens plays that he's a fantastic chance, little Jack, and he runs and bounces, breaks lines, carries the football, so I'm expecting him to take it out down at St Kilda. Nick Riewoldt always has to be respected, so if there was an upset, I feel that Big Nick could take it out, and I won't fall off the chair again if Joey Montagna took it out, but I feel that he's just a short price, and I think Jack Stephen can knock him over.
You're prepared to risk him, and the West Coast Eagles?
Yeah, the Eagles. Matty Priddis is a traditionally great bowler at West Coast. He's got the curly locks on his hair, as we know, and he really stands out. Great footballer. I think you'll find he wins it pretty comfortably over Big Dean Cox, and it obviously wasn't a great year in terms of wins for West Coast, so there's a little bit of risk there, but I think Matty Priddis takes out West Coast.
Right, there you go. So you've given us a snapshot of all the clubs, and you've given us some roughies there too, which is great. Now we want your top 10, top 5.
In 5th, I've got Joel Selwood. There's 7 big games there, and interestingly enough, in the 7, I've given him 3 votes in each game to get him to 21 with a couple of extra votes he can snag, but invariably what happens is you get missed a couple of games, of course, as we all know, and a couple of his big games could turn into 1s or 2s, and Stevie J grabbing some votes, as I said. So I feel that Joel just hasn't got enough big games to win the medal, and I feel he's around that sort of 21, 22, 23 vote range, and I'd be surprised if he won it. Into 4th and 3rd, it's the 2 Collingwood boys, Dane Swan and Scott Pendlebury. Again, as I said when talking about the Collingwood votes, the 2 of them are in the mix. They're both around that sort of 23, 24, maybe 25 votes. If there was a mild swing off one onto the other, one of them definitely can win the medal. Final 2, and the clear thinking here is that Gary Ablett, as we all know, had a super year. He's a great footballer, as are all the other guys in contention, but Gary's got 9 big games, and that easily gets him sort of to his 24, 25 votes, and there's a couple of backup games on top. I think we'll find after round 12 Gary's up to as many as 20 votes.
Really?
Yeah, so I think for the halfway leader in the medal, which I think some agencies were offering after round 13, I think Gary's a good thing to lead it up halfway.
Absolute certainty.
Yeah, just about.
If he's going to be on 20.
Yes, just about, and even with a little bit of slippage, that still gets him to 17 or 18. So I think Gary leads them up, but in the second half of the season, post round 12, Gary's only got 2 big games, in my opinion. It's a game against Collingwood, where they won up in at the Gold Coast, and the last round against GWS, where he blitzed, and he will get 3 votes. So I've got Gary landing 24 to 26 votes, and it's almost locked in the barrel sort of situation. But I can't see him going beyond 26. So I feel that whilst he's sort of his low level of 24, he will get to. I can't see him going beyond 26, so it might end up 27, it might end up 23, but he's right in the range, locked in, and as I said, he'll be leading, and he's the man to run down. And to be honest, on top, I've got Sam Mitchell from Hawthorn this year.
Oh, a Hawthorn flavour, we like that. Now tell me your theory with Sam Mitchell, because he's like 15 to 1, 20 to 1, so he's at long odds to win. Yeah,
so the theory is, the first thing is polling history. He's coming off 26 votes last year, where he ran equal second with Trent Cotchin behind Joe. So straight away, that tells us something. The year before, he was ineligible, and people might remember him polling 30 votes with an asterisk next to his name towards the end of the count, where I think there was a bit of hush and a bit of noise in the room about, oh no, I hope Sammy doesn't win when he can't actually take the medal home. So we're coming off 2 seconds the last 2 years. Then we go and have a look at the year. Hawthorn have had 19 wins this year, which of course was the most wins in the competition. So he's playing in a winning side 19 times. He did actually get rested in the game against the Bulldogs. So there's 18 wins he's out there, and he played well in every single one of the 18 wins. On top of that, there's 2 close losses to Geelong, where he was arguably the best man on the ground in both of those losses. One was Easter Monday, one was mid-season. Ironically, Joel Selwood and Sammy are polling for the 3 and the 2 in the 2 Geelong Hawthorn games. I expect Joel to get the 3 in both, but the margin's very close. So there's a chance Sammy jags a 3 in one of them, if not both. And that would really tip things in his favour for the overall medal.
So there we have it. Sam Mitchell on top, Gary Ablett second, Scott Pendlebury in 3rd place, but could rocket, Dane Swan and Joel Selwood. That is the top 5 for the Brownlow medal 2013. Sean Brady, thank you so much for sharing your intimate knowledge, and all the very best on Brownlow Medal Night. And for you, if you're having a little wager or a little bet with your friend, good luck, and may the best team and the best player win.